As I mentioned in the podcast screencast on mice and snakes, Mother Any Distance Greater Than a Single Span comes from Armitage's Book of Matches collection of poetry. And the idea behind these was that the poem could be read in the time it took for a match to burn down. And each poem is kind of a brief snapshot of life, that each poem has a kind of a moment, if you like, between the narrator and the people around him. And here we have in Mice and Snakes it was about the father, and in Mother Any Distance it's about the mother. Actually, Mice and Snakes was about the whole family, but this is very much Mother Any Distance is very much about a son and mother, and it explores that kind of what's seen typically as a very special bond between the son and the mother, that is very hard for mothers and sons to break away from. So what we have here is we have a young man who moves into a new house. Maybe it's for the first time. Maybe he's lived at home and this is the first time he's moved away, and this is the first time he's had a place of his own. And it's about the mother coming to help him measure things up, to buy furniture and curtains and what have you. So let's listen to it. Mother, any distance greater than a single span requires a second pair of hands. You come to help me measure windows, pelmets, doors, the acres of the walls, the prairies of the floors. You at the zero end, me with the spool of tape, recording length, reporting meters, centimetres back to base, then leaving up the stairs, the line still feeding out, unreeling years between us, anchor, kite. I spacewalk through the empty bedrooms, climb the ladder to the loft, to breaking point, where something has to give. 2 floors below, your fingertips still pinch the last 1/100th of an inch. I reach towards a hatch that opens on an endless sky to fall or fly. It's a very moving poem in many ways. It's quite a beautiful poem about that relationship between mother and son, about the moment that the son realises that he does need to fall or fly. He needs to break away from the mother, and he needs to find out who he is in his own right, separate from his family. So this first 2 lines here, Mother any distance greater than a single span requires a second pair of hands. What does it mean? Well, on the surface it means if I'm measuring things and it's wider than the span from when I stretch my arms out, I'm going to need someone to help me. So if I'm measuring the length of a wall, I can't do it on my own. I need someone to hold the other end of the measuring tape. And then it goes on, you come to help me measure windows, pelmets, doors, the acres of the walls, the prairies of the floors. So that kind of establishes the theme of the poem, that this is about a mother who's come to help the son measure up in this new bare house. And it's the same thing in the second stanza, you at the zero end. So the mother's holding the zero end of the tape measure, and the narrator moves away from her with the other end. Me with the spool of tape, recording length, reporting meters. So they're wandering around the house and they're measuring walls and they're measuring windows, and they're writing down the various measurements for the things that he needs to buy. But then it moves, and then it starts to change. The line still feeding out, unreeling years between us. So for the first time there we get a slight movement away from the literal meaning actually what they're doing, towards the metaphorical, the symbolic. And it's as if as he moves away from her, that it's years moving between them. It's not just the distance of units, but it's the distance in years. And then we get those 2 very interesting and very emotive words, anchor, kite. And I think I need to spend a few moments sort of talking about those. So what I'll do is I'll start a new screencast, and in that screencast we'll really think about what those 2 words mean and what they mean in relation to the poem as a whole.